Well guys, today's the day. Today's the day the Corvette's finally gonna run. We're gonna get this thing working. Today, we're doing NOx sensors. So for those of you that watched my last video, I did the fuel injectors in it, and afterwards had to check engine light. It was idling great, but it would just kind of bog down under throttle. We pulled the codes and it gave me an H42 code, which NOx sensors. I ordered 2 replacement NOx sensors for the car. Those are here. We're getting ready to put those in. Gonna be exciting. And additionally, one of you amazing viewers out there, Genius, recommended I get myself one of these guys. This is like a coolant bleeder funnel, something like that. I'll put a link down below. He was talking about how great it is when you have to fill up your coolant to bleed out your system because it just bubbles up through here, doesn't spill anywhere. So we're using this today. So thanks, Gene, for the recommendation. I'm hoping it's everything you said it was gonna be because we're gonna find out today, and if it sucks, I'll let you guys know, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be awesome. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that little notification icon so you guys get notified whenever I do more awesome Corvette videos. Because the plan is to do a lot of these. All right, so we're gonna jack this car up. Got the jack stands ready to go. We're gonna get it up in the air. We're gonna drain the coolant again. And then we're gonna remove the old NOx sensors and put new ones in. I'll show you guys this process. Looks pretty straightforward, should be pretty easy. But make sure you drain your coolant first, because when you pull these NOx sensors out, they go right into the block where the engine coolant flows through, and you're gonna get a shower if you don't drain this thing first. Car is up on jack stands. Coolant is draining. We'll give it just a little bit here to let that drain, and then, like I said, we're gonna crawl down under there, show you where those NOx sensors are, and get them pulled out. So on the driver's side, the NOx sensors right there behind that shield. You can see the plug just kind of right there. So we're gonna have to pull that shield off right there. It's those 2 bolts on the bottom of the oil pan, and we're gonna have to probably, that wire for the oxygen sensor probably doesn't need to come off, but we're gonna move that really quick. Just take those couple of nuts off there, and that'll give us access to that NOx sensor. Once we got the cover off, you can see the actual NOx sensor right there, and then the plug, the sides of that plug just squeeze together, and the wire comes right off. The crappy part, you can see my plug is broken on one side there. This thing is super brittle. It broke when I squeezed it to pull it off. So I'm gonna have to look to see if I can buy a replacement to splice in there. But I'm sure I can put it together, get it started at least, to see if it runs today. All right, so this NOx sensor has a little end on it there. You can see with like a socket or a wrench will fit. It's a 22 millimeter. I've got a impact set with big enough sockets, but I also have wrenches in case, but it's something to be aware of when you get in here to do this. You're gonna need a 22 millimeter to be able to get this thing off. We have the old sensor out. We're ready to put the new one back up in there, so we're just gonna thread that one up there, tighten it down, and connect it back up, and go on to the passenger side. Be warned, even if you drain your coolant, there is still a lot in that block. I found out the hard way. Had it everywhere, wasn't really prepared. Fortunately, I did have my drain pan down there, so I was able to slide that over, but not before making a bit of a mess here. And then before going on and doing your passenger side, make sure your battery's disconnected. The starter is right there, and if all this antifreeze coolant runs out, it's gonna get all over the place, and I mean, it's not worth messing with. So make sure that battery's disconnected. Like I said, a bit of a mess I made down here. That's why I got all these cardboard boxes everywhere. It's a lot easier to lay on these if there's a mess than if you throw down some absorbent. But I'll pull these cardboard boxes out of here, throw some absorbent down, clean all that up. But everything's back together underneath. We're gonna go to the top, take the jack stands out, top this thing off, or fill this thing up with some coolant again, and see what happens. There's those old NOx sensors. You can see they're definitely pretty old. So I'm sure they were due to be replaced, and they weren't too very expensive, even if this ends up not being it. But if this does end up being it, this was the longest, easiest repair in the history of C4 Corvettes. All right, the whole funnel burping thing, not sold on it. Not a fan. it's easier to do this the old-fashioned way. The tank you fill up with on this car is already the highest point, so the whole purpose of that bucket thing is kind of, I don't know, it doesn't matter on this car because this is doing what that thing does. So don't waste your money, do it the old-fashioned way. It literally does the exact same thing filling up in that tank up there as that whole bucket assembly does. Save your $30 or $40 and just do it the old-fashioned way. Totally not worth it. Just my opinion. You may have a different opinion, but that's just my opinion. Not worth it. It's a waste of money. All right, so I'm getting ready to clean up the garage a little bit. I've got kind of a mess going on. And then once I get it cleared up, you can see I've got the garage doors open, which means it's about time to try to fire the car up. I gotta start it up, let it warm up, finish topping off the coolant. I gotta let it burp out the air. It's easy on these. Like, this is literally super easy on these cars. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna let it warm up, get temperature, get the coolant filled up, and then we're gonna see what the throttle response is like. Hoping for good things. Do you think it's gonna work, guys? Let me know. A couple seconds, we're gonna find out. And I'm kind of a hot mess right now. All dirty and gross and everything, but we're ready to try this out. We're gonna go fill up the coolant and stuff, let it warm up before we get too crazy giving it idle and stuff, but it might be working. We'll find out. All right, she's been warming up for a while now. We're gonna go ahead and see what happens when we give it some throttle here. All right, well, unfortunately, Corvette's still not running, but we can rule out another thing. So at this point, we can rule out a lot of things. We can rule out fuel injectors, oxygen sensors, EGR valve, map sensor, idle air control valve. We can now rule out NOx sensors. We're literally down to not very many options left for what could be wrong with this car. And as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, hit subscribe down below. Keep following along to see if I ever get this thing running. At this point, it doesn't seem like I will. I don't know what's next. We'll see. I know I want to probably pull the catalytic converters off and replace them or just cut them out altogether. I don't know if that's the problem, but it's something I want to do anyway. Realistically, it's not the OptiSpark. I've put, I don't know, 3 different OptiSparks in this thing now. Every one of them does the exact same thing, so I'm pretty sure I can rule that out. I can rule out plugs, I can rule out wires. Just the list goes on and on for items we can rule out that are not the problem, but it still doesn't run. So, like I said, subscribe to the channel, hit that little notification thing, follow along as I continue to work on my Corvette, and until next time. On a side note, my OBD1 cable and the computer software will be here this week, so I can at least plug the car into my laptop, run the software, and watch to see what's going on while the car is running. And maybe that'll give me a better idea of what's wrong with the car. I hope so. I might have to enlist the help of some OBD1 experts out there to read that software, but we're gonna keep plugging away at it, guys. And at this point, I'm definitely not going to be driving the car, so it's time to grab me a nice cold beer and enjoy the rest of my evening. Good stuff.